Let's get into it. What a week. On Tuesday, Vice President Kamala Harris kicked off a reproductive rights bus tour, which will make stops across the country to win over voters in swing states. If the bus ever slows below 50 miles per hour, a national abortion ban immediately goes into effect. What are you going to do, hotshot? Her first stop was Palm Beach, Florida, which is just a stone's throw from Mar-a-Lago. A stone's throw, also the potential punishment for having an abortion in Florida. 7 states, including Arizona, Nevada, and Florida, will vote on abortion measures in November. Trump dug himself into a hole by overturning Roe, but we can't rely on the hole to do all the work. We have to point at the hole, yell about the hole, shine a light on the hole. We have to bring the hole home for people. We can't just tell hole. We must show hole. But the vice president is speaking to more than reproductive rights. During a rally in New Hampshire on Wednesday, Harris outlined her economic agenda and addressed gun violence after yet another mass shooting, this time in Georgia.
This is just a senseless tragedy on top of so many senseless tragedies. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is. We've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all. You know, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
Or does it, said a man who has no idea why he's angry and sad all the time, even though he's tried everything, like ignoring it or driving really fast for no reason? Harris has reached at least one Republican voter. Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney announced Wednesday that she'll be voting for Kamala Harris in November, saying this during an event at Duke University.
As a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah. This is pretty huge. I have to double check the population of Wyoming, but I think we just won Wyoming. There's like a quantum theory of Bush Republican, which is you can't predict their location and trajectory at the same time. Like Liz Cheney is now voting for Kamala Harris. Lindsey Graham will drop flowers on John McCain's grave before campaigning for Trump. Like, sure, at the scale of the meter, Republicans look like particles that hold specific views and values. But zoom into the nanosphere, and what you'll find is a dazzling and uncertain world that defies logic and expectations. I thought that would do a little better. Speaking of people, but we're leaving it in. Speaking of people, I don't care. Pearls before swine. Not you. Speaking of people going against the family, Tim Walz's MAGA older brother, Jeff Walz, suggested in a recent Facebook post that he didn't consider Tim fit for office, writing, "The stories I could tell. Not the type of character you want making decisions about your future. Those stories, mostly things Jeff considered gay at the time, that are now just things we consider wearing pink or tucking in your shirt." That sounds like an exaggeration, but this is real. When a News Nation reporter reached out, this was the story that Jeff told. I'll give you one example. My little brother, when we were younger, we would go on family trips in a station wagon. And the thing was, nobody wanted to sit with him because he had car sickness and would always throw up on us, that sort of thing. No, it's important. This country cannot survive having a vice president who has to stare at the horizon while he's on a boat. Get me to the window, Kamala. Get me to the window. No. Meanwhile, a photo circulating online shows a smiling family of very distant relatives of Tim Walz dressed in matching t-shirts that say Nebraska Walzes for Trump. All right, yeah. So I believe they're related to like a great uncle's brother or something. It's not the worst thing about these shirts, okay? There's no apostrophe in plurals. It's Walzes, W-A-L-Z-E-S. If you want to know how we got to the point where Trump is president and people are filming and shouting at each other on airplanes, it's because first we let go of the little things, and then we let go of the big things. These fucking people. Walzes. Think about it for 2 fucking seconds. Speaking of letting go, a federal judge has ordered the Trump campaign to temporarily stop using the song Hold On, I'm Coming by the late soul singer Isaac Hayes. Said the judge, this court finds it highly implausible that Donald Trump has ever warned anybody that he was coming. Speaking of awful surprises, we have some more ghosts from Joan Vance's horrible and quite recent past. Joan Duddian, you know, again, you're missing some fucking... That was good. That was good. Joan Duddian, I swear, if you don't laugh at these, I'll stop doing them. And we got a long fucking list of these. And yeah, the low-hanging fruit, that's gone. Jeffrey Dahmer Vance, that's gone. But we're still going to keep doing it. The New York Times reports that the VP pick wrote the introduction to a 2017 Heritage Foundation collection of right-wing essays opposing fertility treatments and abortion access, and that included one essay describing the threat of an empty stomach as a great motivator for finding work. No big deal. I can still fix this, said Vance, taking a steadying breath before his next round of ordering donuts practice in the mirror. Gotta get your 10,000 hours. Whatever makes sense. No, JD, that's not how you order donuts. They all make sense, you fucking asshole. You can't go wrong. Speaking of trying to fix it, when Trump was asked last Thursday how he'd vote on a Florida referendum that would overturn the state's 6-week abortion ban, Trump refused to say he'd vote no and seemed to imply kind of that he'd vote yes.
Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
It's an age-old political dilemma. On the one hand, your real position is toxically unpopular. On the other hand, your brain has holes in it. This led to a whole bunch of agita from the Christian right. Albert Mohler Jr., president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, wrote on X that Trump's comments seemed almost calculated to alienate pro-life voters. Hey man, sorry you're having a rough one. If it helps, not a single word out of Trump's mouth is calculated. Jason Rapert, or perhaps Ripper, he's the president of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, told reporters, God saved Trump from an assassin's bullet. He did not save him to pivot on the issue of abortion and support a policy that leads to killing unborn children in the United States of America. In other words, if you weren't going to be politically useful to me, you should have just fucking died. Another absolute banger from the pro-life community. Also, shut up, Jason. Nobody named Jason knows God's will. Then on Friday, it's just a fucking fact. Then on Friday, right before his Pennsylvania rally, Trump said he would vote no on the referendum protecting abortion access before ranting about how Democrats want to execute babies once they're born.
Are you voting yes or no on Amendment 4 in Florida?
So I think 6 weeks, you need more time than 6 weeks. I've disagreed with that right from the early primaries. When I heard about it, I disagreed with it. At the same time, the Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation where you can do an abortion in the 9th month. And, you know, some of the states like Minnesota and other states have it where you could actually execute the baby after birth. And all of that stuff is unacceptable. So I'll be voting no for that reason.
So just, yeah, man. So he's voting to keep a 6-week abortion ban. He's voting in favor of a 6-week abortion ban, which he knows is totally unpopular. So he makes up this bullshit about, you can do abortion up till the bar mitzvah. Abortion up to the age of Haftorah. All right. Donald Trump is, after all, a man of conviction, and his conviction is Donald Trump popular, and everybody loved Donald Trump. And then, because he knows how bad his abortion position is politically, he tried to swing over to the left on IVF, saying he's not only in favor of it, but that if elected, he'd make the process free to families in need. Who would end up paying for this policy between the insurance companies or the government, you ask?
And what we're doing, and we're doing this because we just think it's great, and we need great children, beautiful children in our country. We actually need them. And we are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All Americans who want it?
For all Americans that get it. all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment, or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
That clears it up. When asked if he knew what IVF was, Trump responded, "I think it's where you pop the uterus out and blow on it and put it back in." If you've tried everything else. Trump is also, to be clear, against Obamacare. He famously only failed to repeal Obamacare in 2017 because John McCain gave it a dramatic thumbs down. So Trump is voting against allowing access to reproductive health care in Florida. He's for throwing tens of millions of people off their health insurance, against coverage for pre-existing conditions, but for universal free IVF coverage, which will also be a felony. Pretty neat. Tied in Pennsylvania. Make it make sense. On Wednesday, Trump and Harris finally locked in the rules for their presidential debate next week, with Harris's team reluctantly agreeing that microphones will be muted when it's not the candidate's turn to speak. Here's my pitch. Both mics muted. No moderators. No one is in the room. Kamala isn't there. The room is small. It has bars. It's a prison cell. Incredible that the Trump campaign insisted on this, on the muting of the mics. Our candidate is a walking, bellowing id with zero self-control, and we demand that ABC fix it. It's also incredible what side we're on now. If we remember just to a few weeks ago, we thought the muted mics would be good because our candidate spoke in a whisper and even the slightest breeze could turn a sentence upside down. Now it's like, muted microphone? What, like for Just hours later, during a Fox News town hall that was actually just a Sean Hannity interview in front of a live audience, Trump basically questioned the fairness of the upcoming debate.
Her best friend is the head of the network. Her husband's best friend is married to the head of the network. And they're going to get the questions. I've already heard they're going to get the questions in advance.
Sounds like somebody's worried, but that's life. Sometimes you're in a debate with the faltering old man. Sometimes you're in a debate as the faltering old man. Listen, they knew I would. Nope, we didn't talk about it, but they're annoyed. They know that I'm sorry. You have no idea how much time was spent getting that right. It was to try to find the right rhythm of it, and you'd fucking it just B- right through the room. And I'm sure the original formulation would have done fine, which is what everybody said to me because they wanted to go home. Trump also, in this conversation with Sean Hannity, seemed to have trouble remembering who he was actually running against.
I can't imagine New Hampshire voting for him. Anybody in New Hampshire, because they're watching right now, but anybody in New Hampshire that votes for Biden and Kamala.
But don't worry. Trump may seem old, but he said this week he'll put Elon Musk in charge of making the government run better. So if you don't like what's coming from deranged grandpa, you can get a second opinion from the ketamine kid. It's like putting the weasels from Roger Rabbit in charge of judicial reform. On Wednesday, Barron Trump started his first day at college at NYU. And we here at Love It or Leave It wish him well. Really, none of this is his fault. Yet. None of this. Oh. We'll just leave it. It's fine. Let the people know. Also this week, CBS announced the full cast for the upcoming season of Survivor. One contestant, Jon Lovett, said he joined the show because at its root, it's an experiment in democracy. It ends in a vote, and the players decide what it means to earn that vote. I wanted to be part of that experiment. So make sure to watch and see if I was 2020 Joe Biden or 2024 Joe Biden. I feel like I'm standing on train tracks all the time. And finally, it's time for a segment we call America's Least Wanted. This week, we're headed to New Hampshire to talk about the craven Republican lady dangerously close to becoming its next governor, Kelly Iote. Ah, New Hampshire, New England's libertarian uncle with several DUIs. Okay, that's not fair. The Granite State is home to all manner of Republicans, from libertarians who have all the age of consent laws committed to memory, to MAGA culture warriors, to upper-crust Mitt Romney types who think all taxes are theft, and you can't be racist because they've always been so generous with their Christmas tips. Speaking of Mitt Romney, what's with all the New England states and their Republican governors? You guys are always bragging about how you're so liberal, but it seems like you secretly want a big Republican man with a strong jaw to come in and be mean daddy, don't you, you sick fucks? Okay, sorry if that was too much. I didn't have therapy this year. It's hard fitting it in this year. Anyway, back in 2016, when she was serving as senator, Kelly Iote publicly withdrew her support from then-candidate Donald Trump after the Access Hollywood tape leaked, and she said she would not vote for him. Iote said she made the decision because she wanted her daughter to know where she stood. But boy, that backbone disintegrated quickly. In 2024, she endorsed Trump again, so Senator Iote's daughter can take comfort in knowing exactly where her mother stands. In the garbage. In this governor's race, Iote is saying that if voters don't elect her, the Granite State could become more like the worst place she can imagine, Massachusetts.
We are one election away from becoming Massachusetts in New Hampshire, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Like Reagan once said, was one generation away from becoming Massachusetts. Her official campaign slogan is, "Don't mass up New Hampshire." First of all, cool it, lady. Second of all, face down, mass up was right there. And what's wrong with Massachusetts besides the people? Healthcare and public schools too good, a city with more than 100,000 residents, a cool lesbian governor. And this is just a personal aside, but why are people in New Hampshire constantly bragging about how they have no seatbelt laws? Like, ooh, the law says you don't have to wear a seatbelt. Cool, so edgy. Do you also drink beer in the shower? Congratulations on all the preventable deaths, I guess, you stealth hillbillies. If you're a New Hampshire listener, this was not about you and you are perfect. Kelly Iote has repeatedly called for a national abortion ban and voted to defund Planned Parenthood 4 times as senator. Despite the fact that she looks like an unassuming woman you would see in a Coldwater Creek catalog, she's proven herself ready to fully rubber stamp the Trump agenda. On Tuesday, New Hampshire will hold its primary to decide which Democrat will face Iote, but we already know that Iote would be a terrible governor, and this election will be incredibly close. So if you want to help flip New Hampshire's governor's mansion, go to votesaveamerica.com to get involved. And that has been America's Least Wanted. I remember what it's called.